All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of Talking Indiana Baseball. We come to you during regional week. We just finished up with sectionals, 64 winners from across the state, 16 from each class. Now we're going to match up with a one-game regional before we head into a two-game semi-state. Looking back at our sectional picks, want to give a quick shout out to Connor, even though I'm going to throw the red flag on that one. Connor got the win. Took 41 out of 64 sectionals. And I unfortunately, I fell short by one pick. I got 40 correct. And then I tied the simulator. Connor actually beat the simulator. And then Dalton and Kellen, you guys were just one pick short of me. And then we had Phil bringing up the rear. So our staff did well this year. There were a lot of picks that clicked. There were also some upsets that happened that none of us saw coming. So we're ready for regionals to bring the exact same energy. I will say, to brag on our staff a little bit, of our intriguing picks, all four clicked. We have Greenfield Central heading to the regional. We have Seymour heading to the regional, as well as Terre Haute North and Franklin Community, who will square off in the regional. So shout out to our staff for that. Intriguing, sure to fail. None of them failed. How about that? All right, guys. I want to get into a quick review of sectionals. I want to start it with a bode to Lee Corso with a little helmet sticker edition. All right, Connor, I'll let you lead this one off. Give me your helmet stickers from sectional week.
So my helmet stickers for sectional week. First, I want to give a big shout out to Aiden Kerr, recently uncommitted senior. He went 3 for 3 for Perry Meridian in a sectional game over Southport. He went 3 for 3 with 3 two-run home runs at Center Grove. All 3 were freaking deep home runs. It was awesome to watch deep into the night. So shout out to Aiden Kerr. And second, I want to go with James Kovacs. Came in relief for Westfield in the Sectional 8 championship game with Fishers. He went 3 scoreless innings, 3 pitches, not showing a ton of velocity, but throwing a nice little changeup, curveball with some depth. Fastball reached 80, 81. But I want to give a shout out to him coming in tough Sectional 8 atmosphere and helping the Rocks go back-to-back in Sectional 8. So I'm going to go with Aiden Kerr and James Kovacs.
There we go. How about the Rocks back-to-back heading to play Harrison this weekend? Dalton, who are your helmet stickers?
Yeah, so my first helmet sticker is going to go to Luke Collinsworth from Westfield Friday night in the semifinal game. He threw a no-hitter, struck out 11, really commanded the zone with his fastball and curveball. Fastball was up to 89, kind of set in the mid-80s throughout the game. So shout out to Luke. Big performance in the semifinal to help Westfield, get to the championship game and end up winning it. And then my second helmet sticker is going to go to Luke Baker from Roncalli. I saw them square off against Aiden Smith in Shelbyville Thursday night. And in extra innings, he stepped up to the plate and laced a 2-run walk-off home run to give Roncalli that dub. And help them advance to the semifinal for that sectional. So shout out to both of those guys, big time moments and big time situations.
Nothing better than a walk-off homer in sectionals. That's awesome. Good stuff. Kellen, what you got in Southern Indiana?
Yeah, I'll start with we'll go Jax Leakin. We'll get my first one. He came out in semifinal game for Forest Park against a pretty good North Posey lineup, a team that had high averages up and down. Came out really live up to 93 in the first, but settled back into 88 to 91. But he went longer than I'd seen him in the first 2 outings this year. So obviously he's being extended here in the postseason. Was just commanded a lot better. He was obviously a difference maker in that game for them, both offensively and on the mound. Had a big hit, got intentionally walked later. So big performance for him. And then in sectional 15, Brady Harp out of Seymour. Reached base 4 times in the sectional championship game, 2 of the louder swings of the night, was intentionally walked twice later in the game. If that kind of tells you how much fear he was putting into the Jeff pitching staff at that point. And then he also came in, got the save, faced one batter, game-ending double play to give Seymour their first sectional title. And 30 years. So he's going to get my second sticker.
There we go. I like it. I like it. I'm gonna give my my first helmet sticker to Davis Moore of Zionsville. I watched Davis in the sectional. He went up against a really solid Noblesville squad, and he had an awesome performance on the mound. Went 7 innings, earned the complete game shutout win. I think he racked up 10 strikeouts. Don't quote me on that, but it was something in that ballpark. Doing what he wanted with the baseball all night. Fastball up to 87. Great changeup. Feel for a curveball. He actually took a no-hitter into the 7th inning. It was broken up by a leadoff triple, a one-out triple by Aiden Reynolds. Shout out Aiden Reynolds. But for Davis, it was just, we've seen this before. Davis was the guy, Dalton, Connor, you guys were down there, led us to a junior future game championship whenever this group was coming up. He wants the ball in a big moment, and our top-ranked southpaw did not disappoint on this night, and he's definitely going to be a coveted arm on the circuit this summer. And my final helmet sticker is going to go to Connor Watson from Evansville North. We all talked on here last week of, hey, none of us could figure out a rhyme or reason why we would take Evansville North over the Castle Knights with Will Coleman. Well, Connor Watson gave us a reason. Watson came in. Braden Perry got the start for those guys. He went 2 innings, labored a little bit. Watson came in and he didn't labor one single time all night. Pitched at 85-88, but he did reach back for several 90s and even touched a 92 on a strikeout. He went 5 scoreless, 7 punch outs. Castle gave up the lead early. Watson took a hold of it and kept it the entire night. So North will go up against Seymour this week. Shout out to Jeremy Jones, proving us wrong. Connor Watson with the helmet sticker. So, all right, guys, getting into our next segment. I want to talk about sectional atmospheres. Something that's really cool about playoff baseball is seeing the communities come out and support these athletes, right? Like, packed houses. Regular season is what it is. Absolutely, they're great regular season environments, but there's nothing like playoff baseball. So pose the same question. Connor, give me your best sectional atmosphere that you witnessed.
My best sectional atmosphere was definitely Mooresville and Center Grove and sectional 12 last Wednesday night. Both teams have a rivalry going on the past couple of years. There was some tension in the air. One of the crazier games I've watched in high school baseball the past couple of years, 11-inning game. CG pulled it out, but that was probably the best. Also, shout out to the Section 8 championship. Always a bunch of people there, always loud, always awesome atmosphere. And then also a quick shout out to Avon and Plainfield in the little Hendricks County matchup on Saturday. That was also a good atmosphere. But I saw a lot of great baseball, and there was a lot of great atmosphere, and it was really cool to be out there covering the games.
Yeah, no, that Mooresville Center Grove game, I caught about 8 innings of it, and you're absolutely right. I mean, those are 2 fan bases that really back their baseball programs, and those programs don't like each other. It was a great game. Shout out to Grady Grant. I thought he was huge in that Center Grove win, made a number of outstanding defensive plays at shortstop. Also, shout out to Tyler Denny in that game, uncommitted junior, homered to tie the game up late, having a great season. So, Dalton, what do you got what was your best atmosphere?
Yeah, I think the best atmosphere is definitely Sectional 8. I saw the first 4 games of that sectional, and unless you're there, it's kind of hard to explain. But with how close all those schools are, all these kids know each other, all these families know each other, so it's very intense when it comes to win or go home situations. We saw a lot of really good games in that sectional. Of course, we call that the gauntlet for a reason. So I think that's definitely the best atmosphere. But I also want to shout out the sectional championship game I saw Monday night, Brownsburg versus Avon. That's a huge rivalry, and that was a crazy game that could have went both ways, but it ended in Brownsburg getting the dub. So that was a great atmosphere as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's sectional 8, and Connor, you touched on it a little bit, but it is different in that area. Like you said, Dalton, they're so close together. A lot of those kids know each other very, very well. And man, it's even like Davis Moore was pitching through that game, and we had fans from the other side yelling "Daddy Ball" because his dad's the head coach, and it's just that's the kind of environment you get with Sectional 8. Your dirty laundry will get aired, and I'm willing to say, the sectional I'm going to bring up included a lot of trash talk, but as a whole, I think there's more trash talk in Sectional 8 than any sectional in the state. Kellen, what you got?
Yeah, so I've got two as well. First, just the championship game down here in Sectional 15. Seymour and Jeff was really cool. The game was hosted at Jeff, so obviously they had a lot of people in attendance, but I think the importance of it for Seymour was kind of on display too. They hadn't really been in many sectional championship games, haven't won one since 95, so it seemed like the whole town made their way down here to Jeff. I'd argue it was 50-50, if not more Seymour people in the stands. They were lined up all the way down to the foul pole, so it was a really cool environment and super awesome to see them pull it out in front of that type of support. But then also another shout out down in sectional 32, this semifinal game between Heritage Hills and Memorial. Just a super cool atmosphere. Had they hosted it there at Evansville. There was actually a softball game, including Memorial, going on right next door. I think they won the sectional. All their fans and parents and players came over to support Memorial. Obviously, you had all the pro scouts there to watch Fisher. So it was just a cool environment. Two fan bases that cared a lot about baseball. So that was a cool one to experience too.
Yeah, how about the Seymour Owls and Jeremy Ritchie getting it done? First time since 95. Good for those guys. I guarantee the Owl faithful came in heavy there. The sectional I want to talk about is Hanover versus Andrean. It was sectional 18. Caught the championship game up at Kankakee Valley. Made the trip up there on Monday night. Man, that was one that I had to be at, especially after last year. I witnessed that 20-run route that Hanover Central put on Andrean. And I tell you what, the Andrean faithful did not forget about that. They came in, and from pitch one, they were loud. They were getting after it. They were looking to back their team, and it was a lot of fun. Ivan Mostowski got the start for Andrean. He actually got touched up pretty good last year, so he came out with some vengeance, was up to 91, pitched well one time through the lineup. Andrean then went to Braden Brannigan, who kind of bridged it to the seventh inning, did a really good job keeping Hanover Central off of the scoreboard, and then Caden Maxwell closed it out. But the environment of it was just, it came from what happened last year, right? Like the Andrean side, they were really getting into it. Almost too far, but there was a ton of talk on both sides. You could see it between players. You could see it between players and students. Just a lot of fun. Playoff baseball, it's exactly what we're looking for with it. But shout out to Andrean getting the job done there, heading on to the regional. So now again, kind of flipping segments on us, we're going to talk about intriguing matchups that we're looking forward to, kind of put a wrap on our sectional review and now move to the regional preview. So we all have matchups that we have circled. Connor, you'll lead us off again. You're hitting lead off today. Talk to me about your intriguing matchup and what are you looking forward to?
Let's go. Looking at the matchups of Valparaiso and Crown Point jumps off the board for me. I think I'm going to head up to that game on Saturday. Valpo rolled through their sectional. Crown Point got through Lake Central, who I missed that pick, but shout out Bulldogs. Crown Point's got Sheridan, Logan Johnson, and Logan Cotton that they're going to throw at Valpo. Valpo's obviously got Caden Kroll. I mean, that's an awesome matchup that I can't wait to happen. We're going to make some picks later on, but that's a really intriguing matchup. I bet against Crown Point for the sectionals, and I don't know that I'll be able to do that again. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Logan Johnson. He's been pitching really good for the Bulldogs. He's kind of turned into the player that we thought he was going to be last year. He was a riser up in our rankings, and he's starting to really show how good he is. He pitched 3 scores in the win over Lake Central. So shout out Logan Johnson and the Bulldogs. It's going to be an awesome matchup with Valpo.
Yeah, absolutely. Johnson was a guy that really jumped onto the scene at our top prospect games last year, showed ingredients of a high level arm, and we followed it through the fall, and he's kept making progress. And yeah, absolutely, the performing that he has done this spring, put it that way, the stats that he's putting up, stuff like that. He's really starting to move himself into a rare air of arms within the 2026 class. So, that Crown Point team is going to be scouted heavily next spring, largely because of Dunlap, but Logan Johnson will benefit from that. Caden Matuzek will benefit from that. Will be a fun game to watch. I have that matchup circled as well, Connor. I saw Caden Crowell right in the sectional championship against Portage. I caught a couple innings. He was up to 94, looked a little bit more in sync than my first look. He's a basketball kid that generally tends to get better later into the spring. So, man, you're taking Crown Point. I don't know. I might go the other way with the left-handed arm. Regardless, it's going to be fireworks. Dalton, what are you circling?
Yeah, my most intriguing matchup, I think, is Center Grove versus Brownsburg. They squared off in the regular season. That one went into extra innings, really close ball game. I think with CG being a possible host, that I think that game's going to end up being at CG. It's not fully announced yet, but that should be a hell of an atmosphere. Both teams are, within obviously CG. It's at CG, so both teams are going to be super close. Both communities are big into baseball, so I think that's going to be a great matchup. And I think we'll see another close one with it, and it could go either way in that one.
Absolutely. Brownsburg, obviously, they got the win in the regular season. They're riding the high a little bit here after beating their rivals in the sectional championship. Realistically, in a one game, anything could happen. Center Grove's got the talent for sure, but man, it's baseball. That'll be a fun one to watch. Kellen, what are you eyeing down in Southern Indiana?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Evansville Mater Dei Bar Reeve matchup. I've seen both of these teams individually one time, and I've walked away super impressed for different reasons. First, with Mater Dei, just caught them this past weekend in their sectional semis. Just impressed with the lineup depth, how every guy in the lineup, 1 to 9, was contributing. They weren't going up against a powerful arm, but it was still impressive to see guys move the baseball when they needed to, guys hit for pop when they needed to. And then on the mound, they were throwing Cole Breeden. I know you texted me right after. He was super sharp, freshman arm, who I know we have ranked highly in our class. And he only worked one inning, but kind of showed why he's so highly thought of for us. They were just relentless, especially at the 2A level. It's hard to see many lineups being deeper than Mater Dei's. But then you flip it over to the other side. It was a Bar Reeve team that I saw earlier in the spring. I was just impressed with kind of fundamentally how they played, how well coached they were. Maybe not the sheer talent that Mater Dei's got. They just got bumped up to 2A after winning the state title last year, but it's a winning culture. Players expect to win. I think that's worth something this time of year. So they're going to hand the ball over to Seth Wagler, 3-time All-State arm. He's going to compete enough to give him a shot, and they're going to have as good a shot to keep down this Mater Dei lineup as anybody else. So that's kind of one that I'm keeping my eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. Serious victory field implications in that matchup. It'll be fun to watch. For me, I'm eyeing a Fort Wayne area matchup that it's kind of I've kind of tabbed it the 4A Battle of Fort Wayne. We got Homestead, Fort Wayne Snyder. Fort Wayne Snyder came out of their sectional. They've kind of played little brother to Fort Wayne Carroll here the last few years, and traditionally, frankly. But that Snyder team, they have a strong core of seniors leading that group. They're very offensive. And man, Noah Hess has had a great year for them on the mound. 5-0, sub-1 Ernie. He's logged almost 50 innings for Snyder. So, they have a bona fide ace that has already thrown against the Homestead lineup, and he kept them quiet their first time through. So I do like his chances there. Obviously with that Snyder lineup, it's going to go as that first 4 hitters in the lineup go. You got Brandon Logan, arguably the most talented position player in the state of Indiana currently. He's going to set the table at the top, steal bases. He's going to play lead defense in center field. He actually hit 2 homers in the sectional win over Carroll. Shout out Brandon Logan on that. And he's also got Landon Fry, an Indiana commit, and our top-ranked sophomore Isaiah Snavely hitting behind him. So that offense can score runs. However, you look on the other side, and Homestead has been a top 8 team in our 4A rankings all year. It's a loaded group. Ryan Mikloff likely gets the start. He's recently uncommitted, was committed to Purdue Fort Wayne, 88-91 righty, attacks from a low slot, will throw 3 pitches at will. He's had a heck of a spring. They could go to Luke Rhea behind him. They could go to Luke Neiswanger behind him, who we have had up to 93 miles an hour this spring. It's a loaded pitching staff. They've done a good job offensively. There's not a ton of star power in that offense, but I will say that 1 through 9, it is a very, very competitive group of bats. I'm looking for some of those guys to produce in the championship game. I think Neiswanger, Phillips, Gray Stockwell, guys like that could match up well against the left-hander and Noah Hess. So definitely one I'm circling. Another one that, if Homestead can get through that with the pitching that they have, they're set up to do well in the semi-state. If Homestead can kind of keep Snyder at arm's length and win that game, I think that they have a good shot as good a shot as anyone of coming out of that Northern semi-state. So that kind of wraps up our intriguing matchups. Now we're going to get into a little bit of rapid fire. I'm going to put you guys on the spot with some matchups that I'm looking at. So I want to start with Sectional 8 versus Sectional 7 in the regional. Westfield versus Harrison. We talked about Westfield at length with some helmet stickers. Connor, Dalton. Let's talk a little bit about the Westfield Harrison regional. What do you guys think is going to happen in that one? Connor, you're hitting lead off. I'll let you start.
I'm rolling with Harrison. Landon Nikoloff and Jeremy Lowry are back for the Raiders, and I think they're playing really good baseball. Collinsworth will be on the bump for Westfield. I think he'll throw well, but I think Harrison will be too much in the end.
Yeah, Dalton, do you have anything to say to that? You agree? What you got?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. I'm going to continue to doubt Westfield. Seems like it helps them out. So I'm going to go with Harrison. I think Jeremy Lowry is going to be too much for the Rocks, and I think Harrison has a really good offense that is going to compete against Collinsworth and get the runs that they need to get that done.
Shout out to the Rocks for putting me over the edge in the picks, though.
Yeah, you took them, didn't you?
Shout out Phil too.
Yeah, shout out Phil. We're gonna go unanimous on that. If I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm with you guys. I'm taking the Raiders. I caught them in their sectional semifinal against Kokomo. Shout out Isaac Flamino. He did a heck of a job there for Kokomo. Kept them in that ball game late. But I will say on the other side of it, the Harrison offense did a really good job of kind of waiting him out and then getting their opportunity and taking advantage of it. And they pushed his pitch count all the way to the max. And then once they got him out of the game, they kind of feasted on the reliever that came behind him and ended up prevailing. I'm with you. I think the mix of Jeremy Lowry, Landon Nikoloff coming out of the pen, Lyric Neal, those 3 in a 1 game, man, I don't know if there's, you could put that 3-man up against just about any pitching staff that's still remaining, and they would have an argument. And, with Landon Nikoloff, he had the big swing in the Kokomo win, went backside for a ground rule double to tie the game up in the 6th inning. He's one of the best performers in the class, and a guy that he really rises to the moment. So I look for Nikoloff to have a big hand in that Westfield game. Looking down the list, we look at Penn, our number 1 team in 4A. They should continue to roll. They're going to match up with Goshen here in the regional. They're going to enter as the heavy favorites, but like we've talked about, baseball is baseball, and anything can happen in a 1 game. Now, they did have a little bit of a sectional scare in the final. It was a 5-5 game fairly late into that sectional final. So they showed a little bit of, hey, we are human. But at the same time, man, there's a reason they've been the number 1 team for most of the year. That pitching staff is deep with Rarick and Stockbridge and French and Hack and a couple others in that. Kyler Kazmarski. The lineup can really hit, especially there's some thump in that middle of the lineup. Bennett Hartford, Mason Braun, with a first baseman going to Will Barnes. So Will Barnes can really hit. He's having a great year. So that Penn team should continue to roll. We look for them to secure a spot in the semi-state, but they're going to have to win first. Like we said, it's baseball. Moving down into it a little bit, Kellen, let's get into the Evansville North versus Seymour regional. What you got for that?
Yeah, this one's going to be one I don't expect a ton of offense. Just not having seen Evansville North, but kind of going back and looking at some of their matchups, and then having seen Seymour quite a bit. Not super offensive as far as Seymour goes, but they've got 3 college arms with Braden Ritchie, Mikey Wright, Jackson Trueblood. But then you look on the other side, it could be Kellen English going for North. I don't think Seymour's seen an arm like that this year. So for an offense that already struggles against some mediocre arms, that's going to be a huge challenge for him. So I wouldn't expect a ton of offense out of this one. This game is probably going to be one in the margins, who can move guys over, who can get a clutch hit here and there. So I think that's what this one's going to come down to. If I had to pick right now, I'll probably lean on just the depth of arms for Seymour. I've been riding with them all spring, so I'll just stick with it for another week. But that's kind of where I'm leaning as far as Evansville North and Seymour go.
I like it. You have been singing the Owls' praises all year, like we talked about last week. I remember early in the year, you called it, right? You said, "Hey, I think Seymour's the best team in my territory right now." So, shout out to you for that one. Now I will go on the other side. I am going to take Evansville North. Again, shout out to Jeremy Jones. You proved me wrong. You got my pick this week. I will say I think he'll go with Perry or Watson to start. I would think, English is a guy that, they know that they can rely on to come in and get swing and miss. I think they will use him as such in a situation later. You need to come in, you got runners second and third, 1 out. You need 2 punch outs. Kellen English is your guy. He's going to attack 6'10", 7-foot release height up to 92 with a big old carry fastball. But I do think Jeremy will lean on Perry and Watson to for the bulk of that game. Regardless, I'm with you on that. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. But again, both groups we talked about, the 3 arms can really help you get through a semi-state. Both teams are set up well. If they get into that semi-state environment, they will be able to compete. So it'll be fun to see who comes out of that one. Our next one, let's talk about Franklin and Terre Haute North. Franklin Community and Terre Haute North. Both of our Connor and Dalton's intriguing or sure to fail picks that didn't fail. They're going to square off against each other. One of you is going to be right. One's going to be wrong. Who's it going to be? Connor, back Terre Haute North.
Yep, I'm rolling with the Patriots again. I went and saw them. They rolled Martinsville, and then they beat a solid Bloomington North squad in the championship. Kendall Gregg's going to go. He's reliable. He's calm, cool, and collected. And they got a solid lineup. Both Millingtons are playing really good baseball, and I expect them to make it through. Yeah. What you got, Dalton?
I'm definitely going to go with Franklin. I think they're going to go with some bets. Every time I've seen him, he's been electric, especially with that slider. He's finally gotten up to 90, which is something that he's been looking forward to. So I think they're going to be locked and ready to go. And I think they're young, but they have the experience, and they're ready to go. So
that's a sneaky great game there.
Yeah, that is. Shout out to Grayson Betts. He's more athletic than he looks, and he lets me know about it every single time I see him. Will be fun to see who comes out of that one. Moving down a little bit, that's kind of tops us off for the 4A class, starting to look into 3A a little bit. Couple matchups that I'm curious on. I'm kind of split on with my picks. We'll have Dwenger and Norwell, 2 Fort Wayne area schools that had great years. Norwell really jumped out to me. We were high on Garin Catholic coming into the season. Garin matched up against Norwell in a doubleheader. Norwell swept them. That was kind of Norwell's moment to me where I was like, okay, Norwell's a real team. Shout out your Graft senior over there, kind of leading that squad. And also Delta and Western. I think that'll be a really good game. I think, you talk about Connor, you talk about a sneaky good game. This Delta Western game is going to be a good one. Delta, I would assume, goes with Zane Klein. He's actually one of my favorite small school commits in the state right now, heading up to play for Kyle Gould and Justin Barber at Taylor. He's a right-hander that I've seen up to 90. Awesome mover, throws a really good slider. I think he's got a chance. But then Ryan Berryman and Western will definitely have an answer for him. They have a slew of up and coming arms that we really like. Jaden McNulty, I think, ends up being a factor in that game. Ryan Rodman's had a heck of a year for Coach Berryman and Western, so he's going to look to provide a couple big swings there against Klein. Those are just, again, games I'm circling. I'm undecided right now on those picks. Another game that I'm undecided on, man, is that Cathedral Garin matchup. Cathedral, down in 3A this year. They kind of took it personal whenever the IHSA put them in 3A. They're like, hey, man, we're going to run this class. But crosstown rival per se a little bit. Garen's going to have something to say about it, and they definitely have the pieces to run with Cathedral. Connor, do you have a take in that game?
Yeah, I think I'm going to roll with Garin and Troxel and Luke Gremmelsbacher on the bump. I think Cathedral counter with Dorsey, Bennett, possibly Connor Christensen, but I think Garin just had to get over that hump. Shout out Garin for the first sectional in their history. Yeah, I think that lineup's too much in the end, and that's a tough game to pick, though.
It is a tough one. I remember that was a conversation with us in our preseason rankings when we had Cathedral came out at 4, Garin came out at 5, and internally that was something we talked about a lot of. This Garin team is a little unproven, but they have the pieces to certainly make a run. Where Cathedral, that's tried and true program. They're always going to have success. They've had a little bit of the injury bug this spring. They have Eli Sensible back at shortstop this weekend, which is a huge factor for that club. I'm split. I do like Tate Troxel in the one game, the lineup with Ian Taylor and Ben Canada, Ratcliffe and Carson Smith, Beard, Kale, even Troxel. I mean, that is a deep lineup. So we will see. All right, heading down to Southern Indiana, we're going to talk a little 3A Southern Indiana baseball. Kettleman, Scottsburg versus Greensburg, two teams that were not necessarily predicted to be here. I know a couple of you guys took Scottsburg. None of us took Greensburg. You think Brant Kendall leads Scottsburg to a semi-state? What you got?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was a surprise, especially for Greensburg, but even for Scottsburg a little bit. I know a couple of us had Madison. They're the host school. It looked pretty clean the 2 times I had seen them this spring. So they're a little bit of a surprise, but like you mentioned, the talent like Brant Kendall, it's easy to see how one swing of the bat's going to flip a game. They've had low-scoring affairs all postseason. So having a talent like that at this level is a real difference maker. But even when you look over at Greensburg, I know they beat a real talented Batesville team that had clipped them twice earlier in the spring, but that third time, beating a team a third time is always difficult. And I know they grinded them out to a 2-1 victory there in the championship game. But it's going to be another one that's going to come down to whether somebody like Kendall can lose a ball over the fence to win it for them, or it's just going to come down to small ball for two teams that aren't super loaded with sheer talent like we see at other areas in the bracket. So it's probably a little too early. I'm not too sure on who I would go with at this moment, but yeah, it's going to be another one that's going to be pretty closely contested here at the 3A level.
Yeah, that I took Madison in that game, man. I took them in that sectional. They beat Scottsburg 10-0 in the regular season. I thought the Cubs were going to get it done. But again, shout out Brant Kendall. Shout out the rest of that squad, pulling it out. Another matchup that feels the same as that Scottsburg Madison deal is a Jasper versus Evansville Central. Evansville Central, arguably our biggest upset within the sectional throughout the state. They knocked off Evansville Memorial. They got them on Championship Monday. They kind of took advantage of an Evansville Memorial club that scuffled down the stretch. They lost, so Central lost to Jasper 10-0 during the regular season. Kellen, touch on that Jasper team a little bit. I know you liked that group a little bit when you saw them in the regular season. I know you haven't seen a ton of Central, but what do you think Jasper and Coach Gobert and the boys are bringing to the table in the regional matchup?
Yeah, again, I just saw Jasper. I guess it was the weekend before last, and it was just such a well-rounded, well-coached group. Obviously, there's a huge baseball culture down there in Jasper. One thing I did want to point out, which I thought was real cool that I heard, even on Monday night, it sounded like the local Little League canceled all their games, so all those kids could get over, watch the sectional championship. So just the support behind Jasper in general, it's a baseball town. That was super cool. But just the team themselves, I know they got Braden Giesler up at the top of the lineup. Jack Levin was on the mound when I saw him. He was real. It's real tough for me to see an Evansville Central team that they're kind of playing with house money. Obviously, they ran into a Memorial team without Fisher. Kind of grinded them out, got up early, and just kind of held on there in that one down to Evansville. But I really like Jasper in this one. Again, I thought they were pretty complete when I saw them. They had a deep pitching staff. They staff dated when I was down there, but every single guy seemed like he could perform in a big spot. So I'm going to lean on Jasper for this one, just as far as a complete team goes, well coached, a group that expects to win.
Absolutely. They absolutely expect to win, and they will be the host in this matchup. And like you talked about, that Jasper community, they are going to come out, arguably the community that backs baseball more than anyone in the state. They're going to be there. They're going to be there in full force. And you touched on a little bit, Coach Gobert's going to have the boys ready. You talked about their pitching staff. Gobert, he's not going to roll out a kid on the mound that he doesn't trust. They're going to throw strikes. They're going to play clean defense. They're going to lay down a bunt when they need to. Just again, couldn't speak higher on the Jasper baseball program. So again, we're giving another Evansville program billboard material. Evansville Central, this is yours. All right, as we move down into the list, we transition into 2A. So a matchup I have circled: Wapahani Lapel. Lapel's been our number one 2A team down the stretch. They're having a huge season. Kai Newman, Cam Novak, AJ Nunley, a couple other guys that they've helped them. I think they've only lost once to this point, maybe twice. 25 plus wins. Having a heck of a season. They enter as the favorites, but I will say I caught Wapahani earlier in the year against Yorktown. That is a team that, like Jasper, is well coached. They're old school. They take care of the baseball. They'll bunt. They'll run. They'll do all those things. They're going to look to kind of pull off the upset here, but that's the kind of program that does it. Moving down the list a little bit, Oak Hill will take on perennial power Lafayette Central Catholic. Shout out to Shane Edwards and the Oak Hill group pulling that sectional out. That'll be a good one. For me, the outside of the modern day Bar Reeve, the other 2A game that I have, highlighted in big bold letters, University versus Greencastle, two programs that we had ranked inside the top 10 preseason, two of the more talented 2A teams within the state of Indiana. Connor, I know you've seen both teams. What you got?
Yep, Greencastle's had a great year. Like you said, they've been ranked most of the year. Kind of a three-headed monster with Sam Gooch, Brighton Gregg, and uncommitted 26, Nathan Sutherland's having a great year. University is a team that we know well. Caleb Stocker's been throwing really well for them. They have a couple other arms that they can go to. University was ranked earlier in the year. They play a tougher schedule than most 2A teams. They're really talented on paper. I don't think they've played their best baseball yet, but they could get hot at the right time. I don't think I'm ready to make this pick yet. That's a tough matchup.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the University lineup is a little bit deeper. And shout out to Caleb Stalker. He's had a great year. I do like the mix of Brighton Gregg and Sam Gooch a little more. No shade over there to the University fellas, but two highly regarded arms in each of their individual class. I saw Sam Gooch in a really good outing this year. Think he's got a chance to keep that lineup at bay, but man, that University lineup, I will say, they could put up a big inning in a hurry. They could end a game, and they're playing good baseball right now after coming out of that sectional. So
I think they kind of got a lift off their shoulders after winning the sectional over Park Tudor. So
yeah, absolutely. Desmond Francis did a good job in that game, kind of keeping them at bay. But definitely weight lifted off their shoulders, sectional championship in hand. They're going to look to make a run. That's another, man, that bottom half of that semi-state coming out of the 2A, that's going to be a gauntlet, whoever comes out of it. But, it kind of wraps up our 2A. I wanted to talk a little bit into the 1A. Just briefly, a matchup I have circled is Tri-County versus Couts. Tri-County is going to roll out Grayson Schneider, who's a 1A preseason selection for us. He's going to go toe-to-toe with Billy Miller, who's one of our highest regarded freshman arms, big riser in our recent rankings. A guy that, he's having a ton of success this spring. He's also hitting 550 with nearly 20 extra base hits. He has the ability by himself to win a game, whether it be on the mound, and then obviously what he can do at the plate. Ben Finney will have as another freshman for that Couts team that'll have an impact, along with Landon Garrett. If they get in a situation where Billy gets chased, Couch will be able to turn to Landon Garrett, who's a really solid sophomore arm. Also within 1A, big top 5 matchup for us, Hauser and Knightstown. Knightstown, our preseason number 1, currently ranked number 3. Hauser is ranked number 5. Both teams have been within the top 7 of the 1A class all year. I know Hauser has a left-handed arm. Wassel is his name, Simeon Wassel. He'll likely take the ball for them. Knightstown's had a heck of a season, so that's going to be a good matchup. Southern Indiana 1A regional matchup with serious victory field implications. So that kind of wraps up our pick'ems. We're looking forward to this week. It's really gonna build up into this 2-game semi-state that our new format has for the following weekend. There will be fireworks in this, but it's just a 1-game matchup. So a little bit easier to kind of, hey, you just take one team or the other, right? Semi-state will be really fun in the fact that you got to win 2 games to get there. So that's what I do. I do like the format of it with a 2-game deal, because it's not just about who has the best arm, right? We talk about the one that comes to mind for me is that Cathedral versus Guerin game. And Connor, you're saying, hey, I like Guerin because of Tate Troxel. Once we get to semi-state, that one pitcher doesn't factor in nearly as much, and we're really going to kind of separate the good teams and the teams that they have a good pitcher. So it'll be fun, guys. We're starting to wrap it up. Anybody have anything else? Any big predictions? Connor, you got any off the wall things you want to talk about?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Not off the top of my head. Anybody else?
Yeah, I got one thing. I'm gonna take Brownsburg over Center Grove in that regional game. My head's telling me Center Grove, heart's telling me Brownsburg, and I'm gonna go with the dogs.
I'll counter that and go with Gannon Grant, Kellen Thompson, and Coach Keith Hatfield. I'm going with CG.
Well, Dalton's calling his shot. I'm with you, Connor. I'll ride with Coach Hatfield, the boys, and all that talent. But Dalton's calling his shot. Brownsburg to semi-state. He's got Brownsburg to semi-state. He's got Franklin Community to semi-state. Let's see which ones turn out. As always, we will be on hand at a couple of these matchups. We have prep baseball tournaments, prep baseball showcases going on this week. Our staff is all over the place covering high school baseball. You will always be able to check into the PBR Indiana Twitter, the PBR Indiana website to be able to find the latest news on Indiana high school baseball. So we're excited to bring it to you. Let's do it.